Hey, what's up, everybody? Trent Deersmith here. Welcome back to another episode of the Bread Ideas podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're here to help you discover what works in e-commerce by shining a light on the tools, the tactics, and the strategies that are in use by today's leading entrepreneurs. Speaking of, joining me on the show today is a fellow by the name of Richard Fong. Richard, you can see him on the screen to my left or right, one of the two. He runs an SEO agency in Orange County, California, and he helps e-commerce business owners beat out the big companies like Amazon, Walmart, and multi-billion-dollar brands in the organic search rank. And he has been featured on Forbes and Entrepreneurs Magazine's websites. He's married with a 1-year-old son, so we know that's a full-time job because I used to have one of those. She's a little older now. And he is an avid salsa dancer. So Richard, thank you so much for making some time to come and share your wisdom with my audience. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So in reading your bio, did we miss anything? Is there any other important details you think the audience should know about you before we jump into talking about SEO and how e-commerce business owners can use it to increase revenue?
I think the only thing people may not know is that I was actually born in China, Shanghai, and then I came over to the United States. I was actually in Kansas. I grew up there, since 8 to college, and then went to UCI, University of California, Irvine. Cool. From there. Yeah. So, I speak some Mandarin, not fluent, but, and then I've lived in the Midwest.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. So let's start off with, because we're going to talk extensively about your expertise in SEO, particularly how it pertains to running an e-commerce store. So hopefully you have some kind of incredible result a story for a client perhaps that you did that we can talk about and how your expertise played a role in achieving that result. So what comes to mind for that? Yeah,
I do. So, couple of years back, and we're still working with this client. We helped them. They were a wholesaler. They wholesale to distributors mainly, and they knew that consumers were buying this stuff directly, right? So they wanted to develop a website where they could sell to consumers directly and kind of circumvent the distributors. So what they did was they built out a website, and then once they had the website, they had no SEO, no ranking, no one could find them. Now, if we go and look for them, if we look for, like, say, brochure holders or sign holders, they're ranking number one. The company name is Displays and Holders. And we're outranking Amazon, Staples, Office Depot, Walmart, all those brands for very big keywords that are getting thousands and thousands of search volumes every month. And so right now, when they first hired us, they were getting about 3 sales a day. Right now, they're getting, if you go check out on our website, he made a testimonial video too, they're doing about 20 to 30 orders every day. So we essentially grew a profit center for them out of nothing. And that's all based on e-commerce sales, direct to consumer.
So, and what's the average order value for them?
A couple $100. It's small. It's like a brochure holder or sign holder is about a couple dollars a piece. So sometimes they'll order, several, and sometimes they have bigger volumes.
Okay, so this is a meaningful amount of revenue if they're getting 20 to 30 of those orders a day.
Oh, yeah.
How long did it take you to get them from, essentially nowheresville to where they are now? Was that a multi-year exercise or a couple of months?
So to get number one rankings, it didn't happen overnight for sure, right? Essentially, we got them on the first page within the first, it's been a couple of years now, but within the first 6 to 12 months, around that time range, certain keywords were popping up on the first page. But from the first page, you could be on the middle of the first page or the bottom of the first page. Going up to the top 3 of the pages is it's like a Richter scale. It's exponential in terms of difficulty because everybody wants to be on the top, and then they've been building a lot of authority for the guys on the top 3. So you have to do extra amount of. It's much harder from page 10 to first page than from 10th position to the first position, right? It's 10 times harder actually. Yeah, so from there. It took another year before they actually got onto the top 3. So all in all, it took about 2 years. And then in between that time, there were times where the algorithm updates, where we've fallen off back to the middle of the page. And then right now they're back on just because we figured out what the algorithm does. And, it's constant off and on. But consistently, they've been on the top 3 for a lot. And if you look, they have 2 positions on the top 3, number 1 and number 2.
And ballpark, how much money have they had to spend with you to be able to accomplish this particular result?
Tens of thousands. I wish they were spending millions, but they're not. Yeah.
But even if it was 30 grand, given the volume of orders that they're receiving now, their ROI.
Oh yeah, the ROI is definitely
off the
SEO
charts.
is after email, SEO is one of the highest ROI there is, right? Because once you're there, you don't have to keep really paying. And then you don't have to keep competing with your competitors on cost per, cost per click, et cetera. You're just there. And the conversion on organic is much higher because people trust it. If you're doing pay-per-click, right, the best click-through rate you get is about 2 to 5%. If it's a niche play, maybe 10%. That means 90% are not even going on an ad. They're going straight to the organic where they're preferring what Google has to offer. So if you're on the top 3, that gets about 50 to 80% of the click-through rates. So you're getting majority of the traffic, and then the conversion's higher because they trust that what Google is serving up for them. So people tend to buy more based on the organic.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Okay, so now that we've established a result, let's unpack it and let's walk through the process that you used.
Sure.
And obviously, in the time that we have, we're going to go in as much detail as we can, but we're not going to be able to explain absolutely every last little thing. So let's, at the beginning, where did you start? You met with the client. They said, hey, these are the keywords we want to rank for. And you started to do some research.
Yeah, in the beginning, they just knew that they wanted more sales online. They didn't even really know, what keywords were anything. They were very SEO novices, if you will. They never worked with an SEO company before. So what we did was we went ahead and took a look at all their products, all their offerings, did keyword research to see what volume there are for specific products, just so, we're not tackling something that's not going to drive a lot of volume for them, right? And then from there, we kind of narrowed down to a couple of categories that we knew had good margins for them and had good volumes for them. And we knew that we could get some traction. And from there, we went ahead. So let me backtrack. That's the research phase, right? Essentially with SEO, you want to determine 2 things. You want to determine the on page, and you want to determine the off page, okay? So once we figured out what keywords or what categories they wanted to go to, we then focused on the page itself to make sure, A, it's categorized correctly. The URLs are, it has the keywords in the URLs. They have products. Most e-commerce, they just have product listing with pictures, right? Very light descriptions. So we added 1,000 words to the product category. That's very important. A lot of e-commerce miss that because
Let me interrupt you there because we'll get to this in a minute. I want to back up to the keyword research. What tool or tools did you use to help you figure out which keywords you should even be going after?
Yeah, so we use a couple of tools. At the time, and this was a couple of years ago, Google keyword tool was actually good. They actually give you, nowadays that's not the case, right? They give you a big range. So if I had to do it right now, we would use Ahrefs. Ahrefs shows you not only what you're doing, but also what your competitors are doing. So it's a really good aggregator of your competition, and it shows you a good range of the keyword volume and the keyword difficulty of how difficult is it to actually rank for that keyword.
I actually love that tool. I had their CMO on the show. I'm just looking up for the episode number, and I've been using the tool since, and it is absolutely
it's my
gold
jackhammer for SEO. Exactly.
So I had him on, in case people want to listen, it's episode number 264, so breadideas.co/264. Okay, so you used Ahrefs, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So you used it to identify, of all the keywords in the universe, we should really be focused on, how many did you pick, by the way? to begin with?
We actually, so when we pick keywords, we don't just pick like a couple of keywords. We pick categories or topics, if you will, right?
Okay.
So, for example, they're ranked for brochure holders, but they're also ranked for like acrylic holders, all variations of brochure holders. Does that make sense? So we're not trying to just go in and just rank for one keyword, because that wouldn't, you will over optimize it. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. You want a lot of the LSI, latent semantic indexing. So you want to have a lot of variations of those keywords in that same topic category within that page. So that's what we did.
Okay. And I'll, in the show notes as well, they have some really great videos that explain how to use their tool. I'll make sure that so for the audience, I'll embed some of those videos.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So now you've figured out these are the keywords that we want to rank for. So the next step in your SEO process, you'd mentioned earlier that there's on-page elements, there are off-page elements. I'm guessing then you went and dealt with on-page elements, because that's a relatively short amount of time to kind of get that right, and then off-page takes a whole lot longer.
Correct. So once we figure out what the focus is, what the focus URL is, then we really evaluate the on-page itself, right? So on-page, we actually have a 80-point checklist. There's a lot of things we could go through, but I'm just going to give you the top maybe 5 things that we should look. Anyone should really look at to make sure they're doing the right thing with their on-page, right? Number 1 is the title. So title is the title tag or whatever's showing up on your browser. If you don't have the keywords in the title, at least, you're not going to rank. Google their bots doesn't understand if you don't have that into it, right? But you don't want to overstuff it. You don't want to like over optimize it where you repeat the same word, but you at least want to have it one time into the title itself. Number 2 is the meta description. And meta description is also very important because that's what you see after the title. That's the actual 2-sentence blurb that you would see, right? So you will want to have a variation or that keyword exactly for what you're trying to rank as well. And you want to write it in a way where it's compelling for the user, right? Essentially, part of your ranking factor is the click-through rate of that listing when they list you. If you write a very like robotic type of stuffing keyword, users may not click on it. Robots might read it, but if they're not clicking on it, the users, you're still not going to rank very high because Google will want to serve up what's best for users, okay? So title, meta description. Number 3 is your H1 tag. So H1 tag is essentially your kind of your title when they visually see it, right? So the title and the meta description, the visitors don't really see it. They just see the listing. That's for the Google search engine results, right? And then so the H1 is actually where you show the actual title itself. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just a tag. Just so when you are on the page, just notice what that is. If you don't have the keyword or variations of those keywords in there, you're going to have you're going to have some problems listing it, right? And then I would go as far as H2 tags. I don't stop there. I would go as far as H2. So those are kind of your subtitles. And go ahead and get those within some keywords of what you want. And then I would inject about at least 1,000 to 1,500 word of content. So most e-commerce, that's where they like say, oh, wait, no, my store is all product based. I want it to look simple and beautiful. I can't put 1,000 words in my category, in my page. So what I recommend is typically visually have your product laid out the same way. Just put the content at the bottom. Okay. So if you don't want a long piece of content, what you can do is you can use accordion style content. So you've seen those where you click the plus button and then the content adds up. So you could do like frequently asked questions, just have the subtitle. And then as users are, if they're interested in the topic, they'll click on it and then the content would open up. But for the search engine bots, they read everything. So to them, it's their food to understand what your website's about. And then you have to have, like, if you don't have it, most e-commerce sites don't have a lot of descriptions, especially on their category pages. That's why Google bots don't understand what the content's about because it's all scattered with different products, etc. Right? And but if you had, like, say,
to be clear, you're attempting to rank the category page on which there are multiple products. You're not doing this for every single product page.
Right. So let me back up for e-commerce. You typically want to do it for a category page, okay? And here's why. You rank for a product where and a visitor comes in, guess what's going to happen? Visitor is going to go and click through to the product, okay, and see what the product is about. They have a lot of options. They can go ahead and click through the products. What Google registered is, oh, they found what they're looking for. They went ahead and start engaging. If you start ranking for a product, users come, they see the product, they see the price, they don't like it, they're back out. Yeah. Guess what Google's going to? They didn't find what they like. Yeah. So we're not going to serve this very high. Does that make sense? Totally. So what you want to do is you want to serve up a kind of a category page where you can funnel them through to your channel, to your products, or to other categories, so that to Google it's highly engaging. You got like 5, 10 clicks on the website, so that at least we're serving up something that people want, right? And you're engaging. The users are spending a long time on your website because you're showing them something that they want. So that's why you want to use category pages. But back to the content, you definitely want to have the keywords in the content. But a lot of times, amateurs or novices who try to do SEO on their website, they think of the keyword they want and then they overstuff it. And that's a newbie mistake because Google's algorithm, they're onto that. Back in the 90s, you could do that, and people just write the same thing over and over, and they get on the first page. You can't do that anymore, right? So is 1 or 2% of the keyword density for the focus keyword that you're going after. So say for a 1,000-word article, you only want about 10 to 20 of that keyword within the article, and I wouldn't have it the same exact verbatim phrase. I would mix it up, right? Just mix up the keyword as much as you can. Have a couple, maybe 5. That's exactly the same what you want. And that way it's natural and organic for Google to see. Does
Ahrefs, once you've done your on-page SEO, do they score it at all? Does the tool give you feedback?
We don't use Ahrefs to score the on-page. I'm not sure if they do or not. I've never used it if they do. So we don't typically.
How did you come up? You've got your 80-point checklist that you're using for on-page. How did you come up with what is on that checklist?
Yeah. So there's a lot of, there's checklists out there that you can kind of look at. So these are just very simple things for someone who hasn't done any SEO to kind of get a handle on, right? Yeah. There's also data structures, there's schemas, there's sitemaps, there's internal links, which gets a little bit more advanced and complicated, right? You can do schemas where you can essentially give yourself reviews, a rich snippet schemas of your products based on other people's feedback, and then Google will actually read it and give you the 5-star. You've seen those in products sometimes in Google rankings where you see 5 stars on listing. So that's something you can totally control on page wise as well. So those are kind of some of the things that we can add into the page itself on page wise to make that appear. So it gets more technical and more complicated. But I just want to go over something that's very simple for someone who hasn't really looked into SEO much, but that's something that they could look into once they figure out how much volume is in that keyword. They say, okay, let me go into my page and kind of just tweak these things. And after you tweak these things, you're going to get results within like a week or two, like very quickly. Yeah.
So what happens? So now that you've got on-page complete, now the bigger and the more laborious and the more long-term task is the off-page SEO, which is essentially link building.
That's essentially, that's what SEO is at the end of the day, right? So I tell my clients, like, on pages, it may sound complicated, but actually everything is very duplicatable. So meaning that you can look at your competitors and see exactly what they're doing on page because Google's bots have to read it. So it's actually visible to us as well. We can just do a code to view the and see what is that. So you can copy each other all day. You can copy your competitors can copy you. But at the end of the day, if everybody's copying each other, how does Google know who to rank one above the other, right? The way they determine that is through the authority of the website, the domain itself. And authority is established from backlinks, other websites linking back to your website, right? This is how Google's algorithm start beating out all the other search engines because of this algorithm calculation of other links linking back to your website as a calculation for votes. So with that, there's a lot of strategies out there. There's a lot of ways to do backlink building. The way we approach it with the philosophy of how do we make our website look like a big brand? Because that's what Google ultimately wants to rank high. Is they want a brand. Even if you're not Coca-Cola, there's a lot of niches out there. They want a brand within that niche. So you have to think in terms of how do I look like a brand and not like a scummy affiliate type of deal, right? So the difference between a big brand and affiliate would say, okay, number one, a brand, a real business would probably have an address. If you don't have an address, you're not verified on Google, Apple, and Bing, you're probably not a real business in Google's eyes. So the first thing we want to do is verify yourself on those three assets, and then build the citations to those local addresses, your name, address, and phone number. Even though if you're not a local business, hey, I'm not a local business, I'm not trying to go for local. Why am I? I don't need citations, but it does help because it allows Google to understand that you're a business at a physical location. Okay, so that's number one. Second layer are social signals, or media signals, right? So any brand would promote themselves. If you're not promoting yourself, it's kind of like you're not really active as a business. So that's just a signal that what they're looking at, right? So you would have an active Facebook, Twitter, social media accounts, YouTube accounts. What we typically do is we have a blog, and then we build an RSS feed to the social media sites. And then so whenever we post something on the blog, it actually posts out to the social media sites itself, and it feeds back because it has a link to our specific focus pages.
Now you could do that, but just by using buffer as well, right? If someone's like, well, I don't know how to do the RSS feed, you could just buffer out all your
There's
content.
a lot of tools out there.
Yeah.
Correct. So you could do something like that. And then what we also do is we do press releases, but we also build other Web 2.0 assets, right? Did you know there's a site .com?
Sorry, we're having a little internet buffering. Can you say that again?
Yeah.
Site.
Sites.google.com.
Site, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's Google's platform that allows you to it's their form of Weebly, where, it's something that they allow webmaster to kind of build a page, a site on their own site. And you could do that with your own pages and have some content and link it back to your website. So there's a lot of these Web 2.0 assets that you can actually create content on, have a link to, and back to your website. Does that make sense?
It does, yep.
So and over the internet, there's literally hundreds of these assets. You just got to evaluate how much domain authority each one has, if it's worth it for us to build. But we definitely have our list of priorities of which type of assets to go after and build links and build.
How does Ahref, how does their tool come into play?
Okay, so these first two layers are very controllable. Going out there, submitting to. Are we connected?
Yeah, we are. We're having I haven't had an interview this bad in a while. So let's get you to repeat what you said in the last 1 minute.
Sure. So the second layer of what we do is Web 2.0. Okay. So we have Web 2.0 sites that we can essentially go out and create an account and put some content in and have a link back to our website. Okay. So the first two layers, the citation, along with the Web 2.0 press releases, all these things, they're very controllable by us. We can go out and kind of get these links and build up our authority that way. You can control some of your anchor text on some of the Web 2.0s, but like press releases and social media, you're not going to control too much of those anchor text coming back. Anchor texts are essentially the words, the blue, underlying word.
Yep.
You can say phrase linking back to your website. Obviously, you want to do it at a correct proportion. You don't want to over optimize that either. But that's something that you want to kind of do it naturally, make it look natural. Okay.
So when you're out looking for places to get backlinks, does the Ahrefs tool help you to figure out where you should go? Yeah,
Ahrefs, they have a specific section that just says referring domains that you can click on, and it shows your competitors, all the links that they've gotten, how they've gotten it, where it is. So you out like, oh, we could go get this link. They got a link back. It has this much value. Let's go do the same thing. Right. So you kind of build up a list of network that you can go back right away and get those links.
Okay.
Right. So that's one way. And then the last tier, the third tier, is actually the outreach, where we actually go out to bloggers and webmasters and ask them to sponsor for a link, right? So essentially, we could write an article that says, hey, can we have an article on your website? And we'll sponsor it. We'll give them some money to have a link back to us. And that's a very solid way of doing that as well for backlink building.
Do you find that when you're reaching out to buy links like that the acceptance rate, is it high or is it low?
It's not so high, but we play the volume game on that. That way, we can still get enough links coming through.
Okay, so you're using Ahrefs to figure out, hey, these are all the sites that we might like to have a link on, and then you probably have a process that a virtual assistant uses to do that outreach to each of the site owners with your proposal. Is that more or less what
Correct.
It looks like? Yeah,
we have an in-house team that just does nothing but link building, and we do submissions and outreach to kind of build these backlinks.
Okay. So I would imagine, and obviously there's a lot of details in the outreach and the off-page SEO, but in a nutshell, it's covering off your bases with your social presence, your Web 2.0 properties, and as best you can, and then going out and looking for sponsored links, kind of like an ongoing forever basis. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, obviously we want to assess how far we are along with the campaign. Sometimes what happens is we get them on the first page like that, or on the top, and we'll just stop pressure on the resources on that link, on that focus URL, and then move on to the next one.
Got it.
And broaden it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being as we're having such horrible connectivity today, I think we'll go a little shorter on the interview than longer. Let me sum up with this last question. In your role as an SEO professional, and you don't have to name, any companies or anything like that, but have you ever made any really big mistakes that you or a client ended up paying a penalty for, and what kind of lessons did you learn from that?
Yeah, in my early days when I was doing SEO, I was just trying it, doing whatever you can to kind of get Google traffic, right? So in my early days, I remember I used to build, we used to be in AdSense. I used to be in AdSense. I don't know if you remember that, affiliate. So we used to build out 100 pages, 100 websites every month based on niches. And we just produce whatever content out there that's available, kind of rehash it and just post it out there and try to get traffic, and then do kind of advertising arbitrage. Obviously it's very short term, and it made money at the time, but it didn't make money in the long time. So the way I look at it now is that was very short term thinking in terms of how we do it. And that's not something I would do today, but that was definitely an interesting beginning for me to kind of see how that works. If I were to do it now, I would probably make it more into a platform of publication, and focus, rather than 100 sites, just focus on one site or two sites, and then really build it out.
I actually got my start almost 10 years ago in exactly the same way. I was building little micro sites. I was using the best spinner.
Yeah, exactly. That was hot.
Yeah, it was hot, and I was driving,
That's
and
right.
I
Yeah,
was getting
that's
these
what's
sites
up.
to rank, and I was sending the traffic to Amazon and getting affiliate commissions, and it worked really well
Yeah.
until Penguin and
Yep.
Panda came
Yeah.
out, and then it was over.
That's right. That's right. So we had the same beginning on
We
that.
did,
Yeah.
yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. Those were the days, right? You're like, wow,
Indeed.
this actually works.
Yeah,
Let me,
indeed.
if I can make $10 a site, let me make 100 of those, right? So
Oh
I
yeah,
can make like, yeah,
yeah. I had a lot of them.
exactly.
I had a lot. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone has any questions, or maybe they're interested in working with you, what is the single best way to get in touch?
Yeah. Visit my website. That's Bliss Drive, BLISS, like happy, bliss, drive, like driving a car.com, Bliss Drive. Reach out to me, Rich.
Sorry, we had yet another internet fart. So I don't. If you were
Oh,
giving
really?
it, if
Okay.
you were giving an
Is it?
email address, we didn't get it. Is that what you were doing?
Yeah. So, yeah. So my email is rich at blissdrive.com,
Okay.
and that's BLISSDRIVE.com.
All right, wonderful. Well, Rich, thank you so much for making some time. And again, apologies to the audience. We don't control bandwidth in the internet, and today it did not cooperate very much.